very maybe popular subject, because not a lot of people know about neurodiversity and what it means. So I don't know if people got a bit like, what is this that this girl is going to talk about?
I had to research, I had to check
what
it is.
But it is becoming increasingly popular subject, because...
Why am I hearing? Oh, okay. You need to mute YouTube, Lazy.
I just did.
Oh.
There you go. People are arriving. Okay, would you like me to just talk, get on with it?
Yes.
How do you do this?
So just a brief introduction. This is Rana Santos. She's a very dear friend and a great psychologist. See as much as you can for her brain, because I'm sure that it's going to be very productive and enriching experience. I say this from my own experience every time I talk to her, so it's also a pleasure and something new you learn. And thank you very much for all of you guys who are coming, and the ones who are going to watch later on YouTube. It's going to be there for you guys to be watched later. Okay, so yes, thank you, Hannah. Thank you for accepting the invitation.
Thank you for having me. Such a pleasure. I'm sorry, I have a cough, so I might be, doing that every now and then, and I'm sorry in advance. So I'm very happy to be here. I've known Lazy for a while, and Ali as well. And I love to talk about neurodiversity and anything related. So I think that maybe we can start by, telling you what it is in case you don't know. But neurodiversity is movement, basically, where people who are neurodivergent or not neurotypical, which means they have a different design and even functioning sometimes. They have created a movement to fight for the right to be who and what they are. And that movement is called neurodiversity. So it's not about finding a cure for example, autism or dyslexia or things like that. It's about building an inclusive society for all kinds of humans and humans who have non-typical designs or neurodivergent designs. So I think it's a step forward in the sense that there is going to be more room for people to be who they are, instead of like adding pressure on themselves to be something that they're not. And also it's going to put a lot of pressure in society to just take steps and measures to make universal design a thing. So which is like not just a thing, but like mandatory. So universal design is when you design an experience or an environment or what have you, a technology or whatever. You design it so that everybody can access it, not just like a specific part of the population. So for example, stairs are not a universal design because people with reduced mobility, they cannot go upstairs, right, or down. So that is not universal design. That is an exclusive design. When you build a ramp, for example, especially if it's like a moving ramp, you can actually get more close to, you can actually get closer to universal design. So because a lot more people can move using that kind of gateway. So I think it's something that in one level or another just speaks to everybody, because why are we still making experiences and environments and just architecture, technology that is not for everybody to use? when we do that, when we create something that is exclusive rather than universal, we are making a lot of people invisible, you know, because we're not thinking about them, they're not in our minds when we design things. So that means they're invisible. They have no say and no access to the results. And that is very political. It's not only about ethics and being nice or something like that. It's about, it's political, and it's also, I think, human rights, basically. Let's put it all in the bucket of human rights, because it's about that. It's about the right for you to have access to basic things that make you full-blown citizen of wherever you are right now. So it's very important to talk about neurodiversity, because growing up, for example, we usually go to schools, and schools are very exclusive. And we don't think about that. We usually think that all kids are going to be there, you know, all kids are in school. And it's not real. That's just not real. And not only because of some sort of design, biological design, but also because of, for example, economical differences. Some kids don't go to school because of economical reasons, social reasons. So it is an exclusive space still, even though we want to make it inclusive and universal. But there are all kinds of learning needs and supports and ways, you know, and we're just not looking at all of them right now, but we're broadening our horizons. We can say that for sure. And I think that neurodiversity really contributes to that, because people have been feeling inadequate and different and divergent, and they don't know exactly why or how. You know, it's just something that they feel. It's a feeling of feeling misplaced and a bit of an outsider feeling. And when we are getting to know more and more of types of people, designs of people, and how many different ways we can be who we are, learn in many different ways, and work and produce in many different ways. We are just now tapping into the potential of neurodiversity, in a sense that if you have a diverse group, the things you can do are way more just really powerful and potent when compared to when you have a very even-like group of people, neurotypical group of people. And I feel like companies and the learning environment and you know, all fields of human production and knowledge are just now realizing how incredible this can be. And also, when we're talking about our personal relationships, it's very important, because oftentimes we are actually engaging with neurodivergent people. And it can be very enlightening, and it can really ease the way if we just know that we are diverse. And maybe something that is logical and obvious to you is not logical and obvious to the other. And it's not because they just don't see it, it's because they are designed not to see it. And you are designed to look this way, and they're designed to look that way. You can both look at the same direction if there is some sort of compromise and understanding. But I do feel like that need, the base for that is knowing how diverse we are as humans, neurologically, and just how experiences shape us, but also there's a strong influence of our design in the way we take in those experiences. So some populations that are neurodivergent, for example, are gifted or talented or highly skilled people. I use 3 names for the same thing. The most usual and accepted name is high skilled, which is not often seen as people who are not, let's say, neurotypical or normal. When I say neurotypical, that's what I mean. And like maybe a bit of a translation or equivalency. So, and people don't know that, for example, that highly skilled people think in different ways and integrate information in different ways, and therefore they might behave differently as well. Or people with autism as well, which are very strong advocates for neurodiversity nowadays. And we see a lot of people, of autistic people in many spaces, in schools and at work and in society in general. Luckily, we're just opening doors to visibility of autistic people. And that's been so important. So there is a high chance that you know someone who's autistic, and you have known or you will know someone who's autistic. And just knowing that how to be inclusive and universal will lead to a completely different experience for you and the other person. So this is why, in my opinion, it's so important to know about neurodiversity, and also to understand that it's not about being less or more. It's just about different designs and different possibilities and organizing information differently. It's not about, oh, I wish I was this or that, or I wasn't this or that. It's about like two different organisms or people meeting each other and complementing each other in a way that makes sense to society in general, you know? So of course that every design has its strengths and weaknesses, let's say like that. And if we don't like band together to do something that is valuable, it's always going to be something that is exclusive rather than universal. And that's why it's so important to get together in all differences and exchange as much information and as we can about our the different ways, the many different ways you can be human. So now we know, for example, that people who are dyslexic may have some trouble with words, but their reasoning is actually, it can be superior to neurotypical people. So this is very important to know, because there is a tendency to put certain diagnosis or any diagnosis really into a bad box, you know. Let's just toss it in there. It's not good. It's less. It's not normal. And now we're just with neurodiversity in this whole movement. Now we know that there is so much more to that. There is a lot more we can do when we look at people and see potential and not limitations. You know, it's like, how do we, knowing our limitations, how do we drive towards potential, you know, and coming together in that? And I feel that learning is so important. When we come to the common learning environment, for example, which is something that is not widely discussed yet, I don't feel at least like it is. I've been out of education for a while now, but when I was, I don't know, like 4 years ago, I was still teaching, and I remember not seeing this in many circles and many places. And yet all the kids, teens, and adults who are neurodivergent are coming in through the door of the classroom, and nobody is really talking about how to deal with this. You know, how do we do it? How do we teach? How do we exchange knowledge? Being different, but also being the same, because we're not completely different. So why are we not talking about universal design in education, for example? Why are we not talking about this, knowing about this for so long now? And now I think we, as there's been research, science, and the whole deal about this. It's not like a new phenomenon just discovered, you know. It's there's plenty of material and production, academic material and production about this. So I think we're really late in the game, and it's about time we start conversations like this, so that people who are in many different areas and fields of expertise know that there are different designs to humans, and many of them are actually valuable in specific areas, and some of them need support in other specific areas. But that's just all of us, you know, all of us. But neurotypical people tend to think in a way that feels should be the norm or the common ground for everybody. And if you don't get there, we're going to help you get there, you know, and that specific point where we're at. And no, we don't need you to get here. We need you to get to your best potential. And we'll meet there, you know, not here, there. And I think that's very important to understand, because it can be very, it can be feel very vain, you know, when you're trying to get neurodivergent people to be like you. And this is me talking like on the mild side, because not only vain, it's actually violent and oppressive when you tell people that they shouldn't be who they are or think the way they think. So I think that this conversation is very important in that sense, that maybe we think about groups and people in a different way, when we know there are many different ways you can be and still be a part of things, not be like, it's not something distant from us. That's what I'm trying to say, you know, it's closer to home, I guarantee. Like, there are a lot of neurodivergent people out there. And even in the workplace, I feel that when you deal with people or groups of people or teams, and there is not enough attention to this. There's not enough attention to the fact that it's not just balancing people's interests and values and relationships. It's balancing who they are and how they work with information and produce whatever they're out there to produce. And this is not something that I see enough of, you know. Companies and team leaders and, you know, people in strategic places talking about this. I hear something. Does anybody want to say anything? Okay. It'd be lovely if you could ask questions. And also let me know if I speak too fast. I do have that tendency of like just a lot of information. Does anybody have any questions or would like to know anything?
Guys, don't be shy. Feel free. I feel the face is very nice. I guess in general as well. So someone was saying something and I interrupted. Sorry.
Oh, don't know what happened. Yes, I'm just gonna say it's not a question, it's more like a comment. On media now, there's a lot of things like showing, like on Netflix. Recently, there was this Korean drama, Dr. Wu, the lawyer who's autistic. That is like the whole
very popular
thing.
in Brazil right now.
So popular, like everywhere as well. And that really brought it home to some people to see like how like somebody that is not normal, quotes, like this can actually deal with like work and things like that. And having the understanding, like she's very direct when she talks about people, and like people think she's being rude, but she doesn't have a filter. And then it comes to like, you understand like, why should she accommodate you and not you her, is like very interesting there, especially when it's something that is like neurological. That's how her brain is. So she can't do it, anything. And there's the other one as well, which is like called Love in Spectrum, which I love that. That was like, took me to a whole new world that I didn't even know existed. So interesting. Very cute as well. So yeah, I think it's very good that we having this conversation, like you said, and the media is also helping by bringing like lots of cases to our attention now as well.
I think what you mentioned is so interesting because I think it illustrates a bit of how we can sometimes get rid of things that don't even make sense to us, but we don't realize it until someone comes along and just crushes it in front of us, like some social games and amenities and pleasantries and things like that. Sometimes they take up so much energy and space in your life, and you have to really go through your machinations to make sure you're not being rude. We apply so many filters to speak our minds sometimes, and be perceived as adequate. And when someone comes along and just doesn't do it because it's not in who they are, they just don't function that way. They don't, it doesn't make sense to them. It doesn't present itself to them. This possibility is not as spontaneous. It's out there if it's taught, but it's not spontaneous. It just makes you wonder, like, what am I doing it anyway? Do I need to invest that much time and energy and like even my mental health, into this to make sure that I'm being adequate, or all the pleasantries and formalities? I mean, how much of the, social play and games is really necessary? I mean, I think that's the beauty of it. Like when different people come together, because then we can really we can see from a different perspective and really think about the path that we're taking. And I think that this is what neurodiversity is doing. Like this encounter is really like a very fertile ground for, I think that for progress to flourish, in the sense that we are going to get rid of a lot of things that are just, it's not only bad for neurodiverse people, but it's bad for neurotypical people as well. It doesn't help anybody. It's just out there because it's always been there. It's not because it's great or it powers us forward. It's not about that. Some things are there just because they've always been, and I think that now it's time to grab our hammers and destroy a lot of things that have been there for a long time but don't necessarily need to be much longer. And when we're thinking about relationships in this new moment that is the post-COVID pandemic moment, and how things are different, right? People are, the way that we are experiencing our social lives is still a bit different, So I think that we're readapting, and it's the moment to like get the excess out. And I think that people with autism are really contributing to that in a way that they bring us, a different way of interacting and dealing with information.
The thing I wanted to ask is like the complexity of knowing like how to even know and deal with, because each case is a case. Some people are like extremely functional and others aren't. Some people aren't even verbal. And then you have, like I said, dyslexia. I believe ADD as well is included in there, is it?
Yes, ADHD.
ADHD, yes.
High people. Well, yeah, lots of.
Like some people have like
together
severe cases of it, and some people are very just a little bit. So it's so complex. And like for the longest time in England, there was this big debate, like how ADHD didn't exist. It was bad parenting. For the longest time, I heard that. And now what we have now is a huge number of people being diagnosed with that, dyslexia, autism as an adult, because they were never looked into it. And he explains like, oh, now I understand why. Everything makes sense. But like, how do you deal with the complexities of like degrees? How do you navigate this?
Can I just complete the question? Because I guess that my question is linked to Ali. My question is not only how you navigate, but because from what I understood from what you said and what I've read about neurodiversity, we all have a variation of cognition. We do not are cognitively the same, right? So how do you, and how do you navigate in these differences, and how parents can cope with this stigma? Because sometimes it's not necessarily that the kid has a severe case of neurodiversity, but how to assess in who to look for to give these, this diagnosis.
Okay, yeah. So I think that the way that what you said comes together is that it's complex, just being human and living in groups, Like Lizzie said, it's not just about like having a specific diversity, for example, dyslexia. We're all cognitively unique in a way. The way we process and learn is unique. Of course, there are some patterns which we share, neurotypical people share, and people who are highly skilled share, and people with autism share. And we create these patterns to make groups so we can actually have policies for said groups. That is the only, of course, you also understand yourself better, you find your own group. There is a whole identity aspect to it. But we're all human and we're all diverse. I think that's like the baseline that we should work on, and understanding how you operate with information, which is cognition, basically, is good for everybody. I mean, everybody. If if you are like a visual learner, for example, or not, it's going to help you in life, But the thing is that on some level, at school, for example, if it's not a common learning environment, this is going to be sometimes the main pathway to knowledge, through vision or hearing. And of course, we also have, as neurodivergent people, people with disabilities, for example, intellectual disability, but also in a sense that, for example, a blind person, their cognition can be different because the way they process information is mainly through all their senses or their, pathways. So of course, the way the information is processed is going to be a bit different, which it doesn't mean less at all or better. It's just, the way it is. So learning about ourselves is great. And I think that neuroscience is really helping people in that aspect. Like you should know about how you grasp knowledge. You should know this. And we don't talk about this. We don't ask kids about this. We don't ask ourselves about this. Like if there's information out there and I don't seem to remember it or learn it, I automatically think that I am incapable or insufficient or plain dumb sometimes, or just not a good learner or whatever. And then you create all these names and boxes that are just, limiting you instead of understanding where is your potential. How do you cope with information? How do you do this? And see, we tend to like avert our eyes, from potential and just like direct it towards limitations and restrictions. And of course, there's a function to that. I understand that we are being controlled by, politics and economics and a lot of variables. I get that. But it's high time that we like dive into this area of understanding our cognitive profile, so we know how we process information better and make it work for ourselves, And I think that in companies, this is also very demanded from people, professionals, that they treat information and produce information a certain way. And sometimes companies just don't see that it's not that they have a problem with their team or their leader or their process. No, it's just that they don't see individuals and their potential in a very, let's say, in a more specialized way or refined way. It's still from the old days, you know, like, can you do it or not? Are you good at this or not? You know, it's a very yes or no, tick or don't tick. And I think that it's high time we move on from that and get neuroscience into the game, so we are, you know, doing better overall. But what the second part, but before that, what Ali asked about dealing with different neurodivergencies, right? So I think that it's a lot about is information, and because a lot of population is still very much invisible, like I said, when we are not using design thinking and producing universal designs, we are excluding people or making them invisible, and this still happens a lot. So I think that we can begin, you know, getting through barriers of different levels of, you know, limitations and disabilities through information. So if you know about this this way to process information that way, or how people learn better, how they, you know, deal with the world and relationships, you will have a lot more resources to just deal with diversity in general, and you're just going to be more open to it if you have more information. But also, I think that we are not exposed enough to diversity. Let's say people who need higher levels of support, like people with autism who need a lot of support, or intellectual disability that need a lot of support, they're still not walking around in the streets, and we don't see them as often as they should, because they are out there. They should be in common spaces and environments, but they're not yet, because they're made invisible through the way that we're organizing ourselves right now, which I'm hoping to change and contribute to that change. But when you just get real with these people, you know, you just level down with them as human beings, then you see that it's really no big deal, you know. I feel that because it's so distant for most of us, it feels like it must be very demanding or hard, or I don't know, confusing. But it's not. It's just people, you know. The bottom line is just, you know, doing their best and caring, doing our best and caring for each other, and being, you know, helpful and hopeful and supporting each other. And solidarity is a big part of this. Not only as I'm not talking about like in a common sense here. It's not common sense. It's a very polished, and it's not like a plain concept, solidarity, you know. It's something that is very dense when you think about it
like
academically.
empathy? Being empathetic?
Kind of like, yeah, but I think that being empathetic is a level of it, an aspect of it. But solidarity is like going, you cross the line of like, I understand how you feel. It's like, I understand how you feel. Let's do something about it together. You know, that is the next step. You know, I'm there. Let's do this thing. It's not like help, because like I only help if I'm above you. Like I'm another level, or I'm better. I'm doing better, so I can help you. I'm more able. It's not about that. I don't like that word help in Portuguese or English. It's about being there together, doing something because I want to do it with you. Let's do it together. I'm down for it. I'm game. I'm open. That is a whole new game when we're talking about human relationships and diversity and neurodiversity, because it's not about neurotypicals are the good guys, they help, you know, neurodivergent people. It's about sharing an experience where I learn and you learn. So for example, when I meet someone who has a very severe mental disability, for example, it's not just I'm there to help and care for them. I am there to care for them for sure, because I am, society has empowered me actually to do this. but it's also because I want to be there and I want to learn something new and I want to challenge myself as a human being into, this encounter with differences and diversity. This is why I'm there. It's not because I'm good Samaritan. It shouldn't be about that. Because in that case, we always put these people in the predicament of, will someone care or not? Will someone be good enough to help? And it's not about that. It's a responsibility, because as a society, we produce disability. When we don't have universal designs, we produce disability, because disability is not something that I have and you don't. It's I have a body, and this body has limitations and restrictions when it comes to interacting with an environment and people. This kind of common ground here, where body meets society. This area, this is disability. So we produce disability in society when we are not inclusive, when we are not universal. So I have a responsibility to it. You have, everybody has. It's not about like, oh, I have someone in my family or not. It's not about that. It's like we all are responsible for this. We are all contributing for people to feel excluded and to be actually excluded. So we have an obligation to make it right as humans, as a society, as as a people, that we are, not whatever other species chooses not to do this. We as humans choose to do this. So I think it's important that we commit, and committing is not shouldn't be a choice at this point, in my opinion. It's like you're part of it. You have a responsibility. I don't. It's just that. It's just the way it is. So let's get down to it, and let's put our effort out there to make it happen. So I think that we should have more experiences, and if there was a common learning environment, if there was like a common workspace and common just public spaces, we would see and interact more with diversity, and we wouldn't feel like it's something that is so distant for most of us, but it's rather casual, and that's hopefully we're walking towards that as a society. But I think that knowledge is our best friend here. Information is our best friend, so we don't and know that we are gonna mess up. We're gonna say things that maybe are not the best thing to be said, or act a certain way, and it's okay. We're all people, and we're doing our best and trying our best. But it is our job to find information and provide the best we can. Just like you wouldn't, I don't know, speak a certain way to a workmate, because there is a proper like language and all that. That, right? So you're gonna act, in that. Just like this, you should know that there's a proper way, for example, to support a blind person. You don't give them your hand. You don't. They hold onto your arm like this, and there is a sort of etiquette, let's say, like that. So why do we know how to treat this group of people and not that group of people? Why isn't this common knowledge? That's my question, and that's what I'm hoping to elicit here, that people are interested in this and go ask for this information, and also try to find this information, because when you ask for this information, you're getting people to think about things that they don't usually think about. Like, go talk to your boss about it, go talk to your teacher, go talk to a friend about this. Like, how much do you know about neurodiversity and how diverse human beings can be? And would you know how to interact with someone with autism, or a mental intellectual disability, or someone who is in a wheelchair? I don't know, whatever diverse group you choose, or hopefully all of them. But do you have enough information not to try to impose your way of thinking and being into, imprinting something into the relationship. If you don't, there is information out there for you, and you can, get it and access it and do your best with it, because everybody has the right to be seen and heard and to communicate. And we should know this. It's our responsibility. We should know this.
Yeah, but this being an educator myself and having background of qualification in education, I have never thought about it, because we discussed this very briefly, when we are being qualified at university. I haven't seen anything, not the slightest, related to neurodiversity at university, but and also in qualifications, teachers trainings, and none of these encounters. We talk about having a common learning environment, but not in the sense of for all cognitive diversity that we have. We talk about different types of learners, but we don't really get there in the aspect of having a safe environment for all of us in all shapes and forms and ways of learning and struggles, which is most important. Because when I remember myself as a student at school, mathematics, physics, chemistry was always a struggle for me my whole entire life. And I felt as a failure, because I was not as good as the majority, because I had other, as you said, potentials. I like that very much when you say, let's talk in terms about potential and not, what was the other
limitations word? And restrictions.
Because we usually focus on our limitations, not our potentials. So how you, as a psychologist and an educator, do you suggest that we start bringing it up, but for teachers as well, in terms like this, talking about this effective common learning environment, not only learning environment, but a safe workplace as well?
Because I think as well, like just complementing from Lady as well, when I started teaching, I got into a class that I had a girl with Down syndrome and a boy with autism in the same group. And I had zero training. I don't have kids. I didn't know what to do with those two. The girl was very sweet. The boy was quite aggressive if he didn't get his way. Sweet I can handle, aggressive I couldn't. So God knows the kind of scars I gave these children. And because of the lack of my not knowing what to do, lack of training and etc. And I mean, and then it made me wonder, is it better to include them? Is it better to exclude them? How? Yeah, I don't know. I didn't get anywhere.
It's better to include them for sure. It's better because then you can get access to knowledge, because they were there. You actually had this. You thought about it, So I think that it's so it's tough, right? Because it's been Brazil has been inclusive politically, and legally since 2006. So that's a long time. And I think that it's tough that we still see how unprepared we are for neurodiversity and diversity in general. And when I say diversity, there include all kinds of minorities, right? Because neurodiversity is one specific area, but we can have a lot of vulnerabilities pile up, and imprint themselves on who you are. And I feel that we need to share responsibility, because I understand that you didn't have any training, but this was probably at a school, right? There was an institution. What's their part in this,
Exactly.
Where they actually
And I used to think that because in England we had if you have a teacher, and then if you have like somebody with special needs, there is an assistant that will sit to the child and help the child through. So, and then like you put me in a class with, I don't know, 15 kids because they were really young, no help, and 2 people that I don't know how to deal with. So yeah, exactly. It's like an institutional problem. I should have been trained. I should have had support. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, but you do have this kind of support for regular school, Ali. In regular school, they
Yeah.
at least they do have this kind of support.
Okay.
And
Well,
assistance.
yeah.
Even here in
Well,
Brazil.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Public schools in Brazil, when it comes to universal learning, you know, inclusion, they're actually way ahead of private schools. Private schools are really tough because, you know, I don't know. I think it's hard to understand that there are some things you just can't monetize, you know, which is human differences and human. It's very hard to put a price on it, and I feel that when you come to a private environment, it's just like it's much more about caring for this person who is neurodivergent, so they don't, you know, rock the boat. Let's give them someone to take care of them, put them in the classroom because we kind of have to, and we're just gonna take it from there. Whereas in public learning environments, in schools and institutions, there is actually an effort for this person to learn. I think the mission is clear, because the mission, when you don't pay, is, you know, to do what you're there to do. And a school, when a school's a private school, it's a business, and they're trying to just, you know, not lose clients. So if this autistic person starts to scream or jump in the classroom, it's going to be disturbing or disruptive, whatever word they want to use to make it, you know, sugarcoat it. But they're trying to get the person not to do that, and not maybe understanding that for this person, jumping for, I don't know, 30 seconds, it's great. And then they're going to sit down and produce a little bit more, and then they're going to jump for 30 seconds, and that's okay, you know? But if someone's bothered and tells their parents, this parent is going to complain and get, you see, then it just becomes about the money, bottom line. So when it comes to that, I think that public schools actually have a lot of training and support, you know, in through many networks like education, health. There is a sort of connection between different fields, so to offer the proper support. And I can say this because I train people, schools and institutions, private and public, and it's very hard to get private schools to commit. Very hard.
Yeah,
usually they're like, okay, yeah, that's important, but it costs money, so we don't know if we're going to do it. You know, it's very much like that.
I know this because I have a few friends in Espírito Santo, in Vitória and Vila Velha. They are pedagogues and they work with neurodiversity, and they have their assistants. But the thing, public school is ahead of the private school in the game. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, they are overloading the professionals with the work. So that's the problem.
Yeah, Brazil, the special education policy is insane when it comes to teacher. Teacher needs to do everything and more. So it's like exploitation at its highest level. It's really, it's a massacre, and we're trying to. It's different in different states because this is a state issue. So in Santa Catarina, it's going to be this way, and Rio Grande do Sul is going to be that way. So, and then you have that. So it's a very complex thing. But the main issue here is like discussing it and getting our voices heard about the need of training and discussion on this topic in many environments, in schools and companies, in many places. So I feel that as a society, we're like moving forward. Now a lot of minorities are getting affirmative actions, and policies and interventions which means that we are moving forward, and it's great. Now we just need to add more to the mix. Let's have neurodiversity, neurodiverse affirmative actions. That's what we're looking for, to add more and more to this. Kind of like to add more to the picture, really, and put more opportunities out there for many people. But I really wanted to get back to Lazy's question about professionals, right? So one thing I really want to get out there is, if you feel like, if anyone here feels like there's something, they process information differently, that they always felt a bit different from other people, you can see a psychologist or neuropsychologist to get an evaluation about your cognitive profile, and maybe find out if you are neurodivergent, because that's going to actually help you get the facilitations and that you need, that you have a right to instead of comparing yourself to other people and feeling like you should get to a certain point, but you always seem not to get there. Maybe it's just because you're not designed for that. You're designed for something else. And this is not about like restricting your choices. It's about making smart choices for yourself, choices that don't hurt who you are and what you can do. Because I think it would be it's very violent towards ourselves, when we are like demanding to get to a level of production or processing information a certain way, and it's just not natural for us. Is it impossible? No, it's not. But do we really want to put ourselves through that? Do we want to do it? Do we have to? We don't. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. You shouldn't have to. And I think it's about that. So, and it's never too late. You can do this at any age, any moment in your life. You can get a professional to see how you do and things. So, for example, Lazy would probably get a result in her evaluation that will lead to her having a more linguistic approach to learning instead of mathematical logical approach. What would it say about her? That she probably would thrive in the area that she's at right now, which is like people and language and text, that kind of thing, instead of just being a mathematician, which she didn't choose to be. But maybe she would choose, but it would take a toll. That's what I'm saying. She could choose, but it would take a toll. It would take a lot of training. But she has this, she leans towards words. Let's just say it like that, to speak plainly, Knowing that is way better than thinking that you are incompetent in math, because you're not. You just have a natural knack for words instead of numbers. I feel like that's much better to hear, because it doesn't restrict your access to numbers. It's just saying, hey, Lazy, if you want to work with numbers, girl, you're gonna have to put the effort into it, because it's not natural for you. You can do it, but you're gonna have to really work for it. Do you want to do it? That's it. Instead of just like, and there you see potential and not like failure and restriction. There you get real with yourself. Like, okay, what can I do and what am I willing to do to get it? So you can see, a neuropsychologist would be great to get, if you feel like your child or someone or yourself, you might feel like there is some sort of, I don't know, if you feel out of place, the way you process information, the way you have the way you develop your relationships, that can be a bit different. So and I think that a lot of people are getting their diagnosis because we are very diverse. I think humans are diverse. That's our main characteristic feature. Like, we are diverse, and this diversity now it's showing. Before it was masked, now it's showing. A lot of people cannot be sitting down listening. It's not for them. It's not in their biology. They have to be moving around. They want to do different things, they want to be challenged. Some people just want to follow the rules. It's okay. And it's great that we have this like to work with. Let's not put everybody in the same pot. Let's different pots, exchanging information. So much better.
Yeah. So you said a neuropsychologist would be
Yes.
the most suitable and qualified professional, not just a psychologist.
A psychologist can help you, can get you evaluated, but a neuropsychologist knows like all the tasks and all the ways to get to a point.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, they have like an overview of the cognitive process and all the tools you can use in an evaluation. So if you go to a psychologist, for example, I'm a clinical psychologist, I'm not a neuropsychologist, but because I work with neurodiversity, I know a lot about tools and cognitive functions and all that. But if you come to me, I'm gonna have to look up which instruments and protocols and tasks I can run with you to see how to get to the result that you need. Mm-hmm. Whereas a neuropsychologist would just like maybe interview you and know, oh, I'm gonna go that way. When you're a psychologist, usually you say, okay, I'm not gonna do this, it's not in my scope, so I'm gonna refer you to another professional. But for example, I'm getting my evaluation and it's not with a neuropsychologist, I'm getting with a specialized psychologist in my neurodiversity. So, and that works because I found this person. So you can also do that. If you have a suspicion, like, oh, I think I have ADHD, for example, you can see a psychologist that's specialized in ADHD or a neuropsychologist, or both. There are people who are both. So you have many ways you can go. But if you don't know, if you're really like, go to a neuropsychologist. That person really has an overview of all the things you can check on yourself and just the way you think.
Mm-hmm. Well, now bringing the conversation a little bit to, our area here of languages. So there is always this stigma saying that adults take longer to learn a second language or a foreign language, or that it's more difficult for adults. So where does the truth lies?
Oh, the truth. Well, I think that in neurology, the truth is the brain is amazing. That is like the postulate of it all. The brain is amazing. And it is. Humans are amazing, right? We're not just brains, but our brains are remarkable, truly. So what I can tell you is this. There is some truth to the fact that kids are like, they're easier to mold in a sense, like literally mold, because we come with an excess of neurons from birth. We have like a lot more than we need. And as we go through the process of growing up and maturing, there are some, let's say, big cuts, with downsize on neurons. So every time there is, so for example, we have a 3, we have a big chop, so there's going to be a lot of neurons dying there. And so if you use a lot, you're going to keep the ones you use, and the ones you don't use so much, those are the ones that are going to go. That's why like early intervention and working with very small children is a very important thing to do as a society. Like there lies the goal. There is something great there. And I'm not talking about languages specifically. I'm talking about like really providing enriching experiences for infants. That's what I'm talking about. I definitely don't think that kids need to be learning English at 2. That's not what I'm saying. I think that if a kid wants to learn English and they had enriching experiences, learning experiences as a baby, as a toddler, they're gonna learn English faster later. That's what I'm saying. So let's take care of the baby ones, right? And then after you get another big chop at 8, and then in teenhood another one. So those are the 3 major, right? So what happens there? Well, you lose some, let's say, some of the raw materials we work with in learning, because when we're talking about the brain, what we do is we have a lot of cells that are very long, called neurons, right? They can be long, they can be short, but the thing is they're very mobile in the sense that they can grow this way and that way, and they connect in different ways. And the way you access information is going to be much faster if you use it more. So because let's say you're like connecting two ideas for the first time, it's going to take a while. It's a process. And it's not only a process because it's a constructive thing and you need a lot of information. No, it's because this guy, this neuron has never spoken directly to this one. So you're using a lot of peripheral neurons, like, woo, and then finally they meet, woo, okay, match. And when they meet, it's gonna, this connection is gonna be much faster the more you use it, the more you use it, the more you use it. They're actually gonna grow and shorten the length. This jump is gonna be faster. Or there are gonna be some middle guys here that are gonna get involved and grow, you know, arms and branches, you know, to speak plainly. So this information travels faster. So when you have more neurons, of course, this can happen with, I don't know, you can say easier, but I think that's just a lazy word, but it can happen faster. Let's say it like that. Do we ever lose the ability to do this? We never, ever lose the ability to do this. I think that learning a language can happen to somebody whenever they feel like they should learn, you know? Much more, in my opinion, about you understanding how you learn. So you see how it's way, I think it's way more useful for you to think like, do you know how you learn? Like, have you gone through the experience of understanding how you learn, you know? Because if you haven't, that's the problem, not that you didn't learn English when you were 5, you know, is that maybe you're trying to learn the way your neighbor learned and not the way you learn. And then you're gonna, you know, my headphones died. Can you hear me? Yeah. So I think that it's about knowing the way and knowing your potential and what works best for you, and understanding that, for example, for learning to happen, there are some measures that you need to get right. For example, you can't overstimulate. If the brain gets tired, gets too much information, it shuts down after that point, and it's just white noise and you wasting your time. And so sometimes less is more when you're learning. Another thing that you need to understand is that nobody learns well under tension or anxiety. You have other biological mechanisms operating at that time, which are a lot more urgent than learning the meaning of a new word, you know, so it's not going to happen well. You need to find somewhere you feel comfortable. You need to relax. You need to have fun. You need to feel a connection to the people who are with you and who are teaching. It's not that it wouldn't happen any other way. It's just going to be much harder, and it's going to give you the impression that you're not learning, but you are. So it's very important for you to have a perception that you're in a nurturing environment and relax. This is going to really, really help you learn. And also, of course, this is very common, like have a goal with your learning. Thank you for coming. If you have a motivation, of course, you have a drive, you know, in that direction, but that works different for different designs. So for example, some people, maybe they just want to learn because they have to, and that is very important to them. It makes them focus. For some people, they want to learn because it's challenging and they want to show it to the man, you know. It's different. But if you know about yourself and know who you are, then you're going to have, let's say, a more productive experience learning. But it's definitely not true that it's easier for a child to learn a new language. It's just easier for a child to acquire a lot of skills because that's the moment in life they're at.
A kid needs to learn how to walk, jump, sit up straight, talk to people. I mean, of course, it's, you know, it's their job. Basically, that's their only job in being cute. So of course, a child just learns in a fluid manner, but not all children. Some children struggle, and it's okay, you know. And some adults don't. Some adults, they keep this ability to learn fast, you know, integrate different informations in different areas. So it's very unique. I don't think there's any truth to that at all. I think that we need to nurture enriching experiences for children and adults, but for children, they need to be more next level enriching, you know, because they need to learn a lot more than a language. They need to, that's going to be like a setup for many things to come. So let's not focus on language and other things, in my opinion.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
I want to ask you, like, is there any study to show that the numbers of people with neurodiversity has increased in the recent years?
Yeah.
Or it's just because, like, we know it so we can diagnose? And the second part of the question is, do we know why? Is like the environment, is the thing that we eat, is stress?
Yeah.
Why does it happen?
It's not vaccines, okay? It's not. Okay, so this is a very tricky question, Ali, because neurodiversity is not something that you can trace genetically easily, you know? So for example, when talking about autism, we have 200 to 400 genes involved. That's a whole constellation. And if all those genes are going to express themselves, it's a whole different area of epigenetics. So we can't just like say, oh, there it is. There is no, we can't do that. Of course, we are made of, our design is our DNA, but this design is completely, it's nothing without the world it's that, you know? So the way my design expresses and shapes itself is dependent, codependent on my environment and my experiences. So it's nothing is predetermined, you know? You can have, for example, a person with clearly a genetic condition like Down syndrome or T21, for example. It's the same thing. So we know this is a thing and how it happens, but the way that people with Down syndrome T21 develop is completely unique. You have individuals with a very mild intellectual disability or no intellectual disability, and you have individuals who need a lot of support throughout life and even have other conditions with T21. So, you know, it's we don't know, but what we do know is, so what is believed is, it's not that the number of people who are design neurodivergent is growing. What we think is happening, and when I say we, is scientists and research and people who actually are in this area of study, is that because there is more information, people are reaching out for diagnosis and trying to, you know, get into their group, you know? And because we know more about this condition, the professionals who are looking at and caring for different people, they now see something that can be placed as neurodivergency, whereas before it would just be, I don't know, a quirk or something, you know? So now we know that someone who has a trouble, you know, sitting down, and someone who loves challenges and likes new things all the time, and likes to speak more than listening, this person likely has ADHD. It's not that they're just egocentric. It's just that they are designed for these experiences. That's the one they enjoy more. You know, they get the kick out of these experiences and not necessarily just sitting down and listening. Where, for example, I get my kicks from sitting down and listening. It's a different thing, you know? So you see, it's just the way that information finds its way, gives visibility. So we're seeing neurodivergent people, whereas before we weren't seeing them, or we didn't know what was going on, right? And now that we do, of course, we're going to get more diagnoses. But there is another issue, and this issue specifically with autism, like an ADHD, which is really growing exponentially in diagnosis, is that because this kind of information is becoming so popular, and there are some interests money-wise again in interventions and things like that. People are trying to sell some things here and there. I think that some professionals, that's just my professional opinion, that there are some diagnoses being done without the proper care of like what we call a differential diagnosis. So how do I know that this is ADHD and not autism? What was the criteria I used as a professional to differentiate? This is lacking at the moment, in my opinion, from the people I see and in my, field of work. So I feel that we still need to like refine the information and popularize differential diagnosis. This is still a bit of a gray area. And what I see is sometimes if a kid is a bit, it's gonna maybe fall into autism because we don't know what else it could be. And of course, we haven't learned all neurodiversities yet. We don't know all of them, just like we didn't know ADHD, just like we didn't know autism, just like we didn't know highly skilled. We only after we came up with this construct could we differentiate. So I think that we're at a stage where we're going to learn way more, diagnosis and ways you can be neurodivergent, and this is going to like spread out. There's actually a new one. It's social communication disorder now, it's a new one. It wasn't in the previous statistic diagnostic manual. So there you go. There's another one now. So I think that this is going to progress, and also there are ones that are less popular that even some professionals don't know about. Sensory processing disorder, for example. There you go. It's a neurodivergency. So if you don't know about it, you're not going to diagnose it. So we need to get information out there, so people have more access to it, and then we're going to really see. But I don't think
that when they see, like, they can taste colors. I saw this guy that can taste color, and like
that's being kinesthetic, but not necessarily. But you can. I have a bit of a sensory processing disorder. So, for example, if you touch my foot, I might feel it here.
Oh, okay.
There are some textures that, for example, tomatoes. When I eat a tomato, it's very unpleasant to chew on it. So I usually use a filter. Like I rub my thighs like this, because then I focus on the feeling of rubbing my thighs and not so much on the texture. I learned this as an adult. I was a child struggling with food throughout my childhood because I hated different textures. My mom did not know about this, of course, and I suffered the consequences. But when I started with neurodivergent people, I found out that when I dip my toes into wet sand, I get when you bite a popsicle, I get that feeling on my teeth. That means my wiring is different, and I didn't know that. So I use a lot of sensory filters, but I didn't know that I did after I learned about it. So of course, you see, you learn more about yourself, and maybe now some people are identifying with this. They're like, oh my God, I do this or I do that. I like jumping around or something like that. People who really enjoy roller coasters and things that get you moving, like swings as well, usually have a vestibular processing that is hyposensitive like me. I love roller coasters. I love swings and things that move around like that, but I cannot be way up. If I'm very high up and it's like an open horizon, I cannot move properly. I lose like control of my body because my vision and my vestibular systems just go like, they don't function properly. So yeah, so that's just one thing that's out there. Yeah. So and then if you don't know a lot about this, and people could say that Hannah as a kid was autistic because she couldn't process stimuli, you know, and I wasn't inflexible. I had social skills, so like up to a neurotypical level. So, but maybe I would be put into the box because people didn't know better. So we need to know better. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that people who are autistic are not really autistic and people who have mild, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that if you are autistic, you are, and you were born this way, it is what it is. But what I'm really trying to get into the conversation here is we need to know more about all the ways you can be neurodiverse. That's what I'm saying. So we don't like restrict ourselves and commit the same mistake, you know, just have this population and that population. No, there's a whole spectrum. There is more ways we can go. Did I answer your question? I think I did. Right?
Yes, you have.
I talk about a lot of things at the same time.
That was so interesting. Love it.
Mateus Sucupira, I see that you want to ask a question. I can see
Mateus.
In the first place, I want to think that explanation so impressive to listen to you talking about that. And so my question is about the COVID-19 pandemic. I want to know, what do you feel and what do you think if that scenario of COVID-19 pandemic creates some cognitive problem because of the social withdrawal in the person who work from home, like me, with that withdrawal of our society of people, and what do you mean about that? If have any create, or it's a diagnostic, post the diagnostic of that.
Yes, there are some diagnoses being written up about this specifically. Screen time is a major worry, not just for kids. People like, oh, get your kids off the screen, get the adults off the screen as well. You know, it's because you see how deprived of the other senses we become. Like, you don't smell people, and a lot of social communication doesn't happen through speech. You release hormones and things, and a lot goes on live, and you need to see 3D to pick up the you know, the cues, the social cues. So it's definitely something that we are going to experience in the following years, are the repercussions of 2D live. You know, we already see in like recent research a decline in social performance and the predisposition of people to get together. It's like people are also feeling more anxious, isolated, things like that, you know, because of course you're going to feel like that, not only because you're not seeing people live, because the circumstances were dire, right? It was something tough to go through. So with children, it's of course very, very delicate, because like I said, rich experiences lead to people have unlocked more things into themselves, more possibilities, and are just going to be, you know, they're going to have more to work with, you know, not only in memory and learning, but also in connections, like literal connections, biological, neurological. So yeah, it's going to be an issue long term, because these babies and kids, they're going to live through repercussions, and the way they see the world is different. When I see teens, for example, the way it's deeply affected teens in a way that they've lost hope, They don't trust adults. What is the future? What is this world that you're leaving me with? You know, it's very it's a serious issue. It's grave. You know, so it's deeply affected our society for the years to come still. But at the same time, of course, people connected with a lot of things they didn't before. So that was obviously beneficial. There's always some good to it, you know. And I feel, for example, that access to information about neurodiversity, for example, has increased exponentially. But yeah, we're going to see some consequences. There was a publication recently about, because we always see an improvement in cognitive function from one generation to the other. There has been an improvement since it's been started to measure, right? So, for example, you are smarter than your parents, most likely. However, this generation has failed. It's the first generation to not be smarter than the previous one. What happened? We know what happened. Digital world happened. And it's not that the digital world isn't wonderful. It's just that there are experiences they just cannot have sitting down like this. You can't. So also everything's very ready, you know. It's been constructed and built, and the image and the colors, they're all there. Just sit and you get the input. So you don't really create and produce and find out and do things. And so this also doesn't help these kind of functions. However, it happens, it helps what kind of function? Learning through vision and integrating informations, audio and visual information. So this generation, that's why you have a 2-year-old with a phone going on YouTube and finding their video. They do it at 2 years old because they do have those skills, but they don't know how to talk to their friend or share a toy, you know, or maybe write a composition when you're 7 or 8. So that's that. We need to look at this and think about, let's get the potential out of 2D, but we need to get the potential of 3D back, like urgently. Otherwise, because we don't think about the future repercussions, but this whole generation, like, what are they going to create? Because these are going to be the adults, the scientists, the people who are going to be influential in our society. What are they going to do? We need to think about this. Are we going to keep advancing, or are we looking at a standstill as a species? You know, this is an issue that we as, I don't know, common folk, we just like, okay, yeah, whatever. But it's going to be an issue for all of us, hopefully, if we're still alive in the like 20, 30 years to come. You know, so yeah, it's a problem, and it's showing. Research has corroborated to the fact that there has been decline in cognitive function due to overexposure of screen time and, you know, just not creative, stimulating, enriching activities in general, for not just for kids, like you mentioned, right? Social anxiety is way up, anxiety is way up. But I don't know if that's just because we're being apart from each other. I think that's because as a society, we're like, we're doing great on some aspects, like we're doing great. But in others, it's always so oppressive, you know? It's tough, right? You have to buy, you have to be, you have to travel, you have, and then Instagram and TikTok, and it's just, it's a lot of information. And what I feel is that people don't realize how they have been exposed to more information, way more than before. So when I was a child, when I was 12, that's when I started the dial-up internet connection. So before then, my life was different. And then it got progressively an information buildup. That's what happened. So of course that I forget things. And for me, it's very weird because I've always mastered life without aids. But now I need an aid. I definitely need an aid. and I'm okay with it. But I see people struggling and judging themselves. I'm not, but I always remembered and now I forget. It's not because you're getting dumber or older. It's because you have so much more information and information build up now that you need an aid to organize all this information, because it's not natural for you to organize all this. In modern life, it's not natural or okay for a human being to remember everything and plan everything and do everything with the volume of information we're exposed to. So a lot of people just tune out, bottomless feed, you don't want to think. You watch your series for 7 hours straight, especially if it's something that doesn't make you think, just go like, and that's it. This is people trying to breathe. And why is this worrisome? Is that people are exhausted. They need to rest. They don't get rest time because they rest in front of the screen, usually. And people are always tired. And when you're always tired, do you want to go to a party? Do you want to socialize? Do you want to make the effort to see your friend? Do you want to go hiking? Do you want to see nature? Do you want to have different experiences? You don't. You just want to be locked inside your apartment, tired, And this leads to other things. You see how everything becomes connected. And so I feel that we need to be very gentle with ourselves and understand that the volume of information that we're exposed to is oppressive. And you need to develop ways to defend yourself from that oppression of over-information. Over-information has one goal: to keep you where you're at, not mobile, sitting down, not making change, not connecting, not getting out there in the world. Keep you still. You put all the weight of information on people so they don't make a change. That's the point of it, and we need to fight it.
Simple, amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're reading a book at the conversation group, The Burnout Society. And
I have that.
All about that, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I love it because it's so small and it's very easy to read, in a sense that
no, it's not easy to read. No, come on, it's not.
Oh, come on, I'm trying to get people to read it.
But it's an important read, definitely.
It is. But it's very small. It's very thin.
Yeah.
It's a small book, thin book, and it's nice because I feel that it being so small and thin, it speaks exactly against this super volume of information. Okay, right? So I'm gonna give it to you straight and small. So there you go. So I like that. I think it really symbolizes the point it's trying to get across. It's not like, don't indulge yourself into everything that's out there. Seek out what is meaningful to you and tune out what is not. Mm-hmm. And it's very hard to do this because sometimes we want to please other people. So we want to be kept in the loop. So we're like feeding ourselves information. So we have a conversation with A, B, or C. And it's just not worth it, to be honest. It's better that you ask and the person talks about it and they feel like a superstar, then you're just like trying to, catch up with everything and everyone. It's insane. It's not worth it. Find what you love. And like Bukowski said, let it kill you. But
wow.
Yeah, that's it.
That's a lot of it.
That's a lot
powerful.
of it.
Wow. I am like, needs time to process now.
Yeah. It's good, right? You're thinking about your choices. I like that. Mm-hmm. And one last thing, like, thank you, Andrea. Thank you for being here and hearing what I had to say. Thank you very much. So one last thing is like, what is this volume of information doing to neurodiverse people, right? I think that's another thing we need to think about. Like, how oppressive is this to different cognitive profiles and ways of functioning? We need to talk about this. We're like running over people, we're literally like slamming through them. It's not fair.
Yeah, it's true. I just have to say something live because when we live stream to YouTube, we don't have the real picture of who's watching and who's participating, you know, because YouTube only show the cameras on, but we have more people here like having a good time and enjoying all of this information that Hannah is sharing with us. And if anyone who watches later has any doubts, you can always find Hannah at Rana Santos and ask her questions either in Portuguese or in English that she's going to be pleased to answer.
Yeah, I'll be happy to talk to anyone about this, which is one of my many interests, and I love talking about my interests. Thank you.
Oh, girls, thank you very much. I mean, it's precious, you know, that I'm a big fan of yours, and I always learn a lot. And as Ali says, you always give us many things to process and to think about. And now, you know, and I feel, you know, like a craving for more. And I miss the meetings we used to have, and we used to talk about education and have these encounters. Yeah, this was one of the good things about the social distancing, that we had these encounters, but now we don't have anymore. But anyways.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me. I had a great time.
Oh, no, it was amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. It was a pleasure, truly.
Yeah, and then Iago and Sanchez, you guys, if you want to ask something before she goes, or just open your camera to say hello or not, I mean, or via chat, just feel free, because I know that Iago is a nutritionist and Sanchez is a dev. So you guys, if you're listening.
That's cool, because devs definitely should learn about neurodiversity, because I feel that devs and teams of devs basically are commonly neurodiverse. So I think that technology needs to get on with that. It's already like, you know, in the loop, but I feel like it can gain from thinking about how to build up their teams and develop their teams in under this light, you know, of neurodiversity. I think you can really gain a lot from it.
Awesome. Well, then, thank you very much, Go, once again, for sharing all your knowledge, not all your knowledge, but some of your expertise and one of your passions, which is neurodiversity. It was really a great pleasure to hear.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Ali, what you gonna say? Ali's like,
she's thinking about.
I think I need to find a neuropsychiatrist, a psychologist. I think I'm like, I must get Hannah's number with Lazy, because I don't think I have it.
I would do the same. I would do the same.
I think I must tell my sisters about my nieces and the screen time. This is where my brain's at right now.
Cool. I'm glad you're thinking about it. I'm glad.
Yeah, it's a to-do list of things to do.
Thanks, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for coming and participating. Sanchez, Iago.
My pleasure.
Who participated.
Thank you, everyone.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much, people.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Take care, you all.